Hi everybody. So this is going to be a quick rundown of the lesson that I planned for 7th graders. It is an ELA lesson that's based on ELA standard L-7.5, which is demonstrate understanding of figurative language, word relationships, and nuances in word meanings. So this particular lesson is going to be about analogy creations, and the learning target for students would be I can identify an analogy and I can define the characteristics of an analogy. So I chose a student as like my as a background student, and we'll just call this particular student Alfredo. Alfredo is a first generation student who arrived from the U.S. to the U.S. from Mexico at 5 years old. Although he has been in the school system since he was in kindergarten, he has yet to exit the ESL program. His verbal skills in English are proficient, but his reading and writing skills are still at a beginner's level, even in the 7th grade. Alfredo is a visual learner and would greatly benefit from the usage of pictures and diagrams in class. At home, he communicates with his siblings in English, but switches back to Spanish with his mother, who doesn't speak much English. And additionally, his writing skills in English aren't supported in the household because of the fact that his mom isn't able to speak English, because she's not able to speak or read or write in English, so he isn't able to get that help. Conversely, Alfredo can neither read nor write in Spanish. And so this particular lesson will greatly benefit him because students will not only be generating their own analogies, but he'll be able to draw a picture to help kind of depict the relationship between the two words. So the objective is students will be able to define randomly chosen words and create analogies based on an identified relationship using the two words that they randomly chose, that will be chosen as a starting point. And this is a twofold lesson, so students will not only be able to identify the characteristics of an analogy, but they'll also be able to increase their vocabulary as a result of the analogies they create. So the materials needed for this lesson would be access to the internet, and through the internet, students would be able to access an online dictionary. If they weren't able to have internet access, then a hardback dictionary would be used instead. And the second thing is that each student will have 5 index cards. And the way that this could be done is on the index cards in my lesson, I'd actually planned for students to have those index cards, and on the index cards would be words from our current novel study. But another way that this could also work is that just to take vocabulary words that they're familiar with and use those words to create those analogies as well. Those cards will be created by myself. So first, I would display 2 words on the doc cam. If I had a doc cam, I would display 2 words that have a relationship to each other, but they seemingly don't. So we're taking the idea that these are just 2 random words. And then after that, I would ask students to the similarities, if they see similarities or differences between the words. So if this is, these are 2 words, we'll say dog and kennel. If there are, I would ask students the similarities or differences that they see between dog and kennel. After that, I would then ask, how can those 2 words be connected? Or how could they be shown as opposites? Or if they are truly related by either being connected or if they are opposites. And so as I'm eliciting these responses from students, I also have a volunteer that's at the front of the class recording all of the responses that their classmates are giving. So in modeling this, I would ask students to think of 2 other words that can be connected. So after the volunteer has written down those responses, then I'm going to ask for 2 more words that could be connected. So once students respond with a pair of words that actually are connected, I'll write all 4 words. So dog is to kennel as horse is to stable. And then I'll explain to students that what they have created is an analogy. These 2 words are connected. This is a place, this is an animal, and this is where they live. That's the relationship. So once that's been established, I'll let students know that the cards that they have are randomly chosen words from our novel study. They will then be able to create the analogy. How are the words that you have been given? How are they connected? So what will happen is the words will be shuffled and placed in a container. So we're going to pretend like this is our container. So students will randomly choose 2 cards from the container. And on a separate sheet of paper, they'll define each word. So first they'll pick 2 words, and then that's when either the online dictionary will come in or the hardback dictionary will come in, because they'll need to define the word. Once the word's been defined, students will reflect on the connection, on the definition of the 2 words to find a possible connection between them. Okay. Once the connection has been found, they'll need the dictionary to think of 2 words to use as an analogy for the ones they created. So the dictionary serves a purpose of defining the word, and then once they have the word defined, they'll need to think of 2 words that can be used to connect the words that they originally picked. Next, they'll write an analogy with all of the words that they've chosen. Once the students have completed that task, they'll then pick 2 more words from the container. So they'll have their first 2 words, created analogy, and then they'll pick 2 more words from the container. Okay, so they'll repeat the process over again. They will define the 2 words that they have, and then they'll think of words that connect, 2 words that connect those 2 words. A little redundant, but sorry. After that, I would decide the number of analogies that students are required to develop. So with a modification or accommodation for Alfredo, could be he would just have to do 2 analogies, and also one modification for him would be that instead of writing the relationship between the 2 words, he could actually draw the relationship, so a visual representation of what the relationship between the 2 words would be. How I would know students have achieved the learning target would be once those analogies have been created for all students, we would then take them, gather them up, and put them in a separate container, running through each analogy for an entire week. And then on Friday, they would be told on Monday that these words would be used to create a short quiz. And so once they achieved, it would be a 10 to 20 point quiz. Once students were able to pass that quiz, then I would know that they had achieved the learning target. Which also invests them more into the lesson, because these are student-generated responses, so they are able to connect with the idea of an analogy, which is more of an abstract thinking than concrete, which is what 7th graders would need practice with. And that is it. Thanks a lot.